Hello everyone, welcome to the United Stand. What did Ole Gunnar Solskjaer get right against Manchester City, and what does that mean for the rest of the season? And I want to fly through this because I think it's so easy to be negative about the situation at Manchester United, and it's not necessarily wrong to be negative about it. We've had a very bad season, but this last month has been superb in relation to excitement, expectation levels and improvement levels, and a lot of players have responded to one thing, and that was the signing of Bruno Fernandes. And is it one thing, or is it a very quintessential thing? And that, I think, is the case. Bruno Fernandes has been added into this team, and it's basically the centre point. It's the core of the earth that's allowed us to warm up and basically perform at the level and get the world spinning effectively. He's been the engine room and the creator, and Bruno Fernandes has been fantastic. But how do we bring this back to Solskjaer? Well, look, I think, as I've said before, with Solskjaer, let's see what happens in May. At the moment, it's looking great. When it's going well, it's going well. And I think United fans, some United fans are like, oh, I was always Ole in. What a load of rubbish. Absolute nonsense. I've never seen a United fan that's been Ole in the whole time. And if you were just a guest person, because there were reason to be concerned. And I think the thing that binds us is that we all want United to be successful. And if you've been a moaner about what's going on, it's probably because you care about where the club's going. And if you've been positive, probably because you're hoping the club is going to get there. But I think we're united about where we need to get. And in relation to Solskjaer, there's never been any doubt that he's a United fan. There's never been any doubt that he wants to do well at this job. Very different to some of the managers that we've had after Sir Alex. He is a Manchester United person, and he does want to do well. And we've got to look at what he's done well. And I think the first thing I want to say is, and it's inclusive of Bruno Fernandes, is that yesterday's game against Manchester City, no matter how these players were bought, they were bought under him, and every single one of them was so important yesterday. Bruno Fernandes had a quite quiet game, but he got the assist for the goal that basically won the game for Martial. Wan-Bissaka was man of the match. Harry Maguire was superb again, and Dan James, although some people seem to think he didn't play well, Dan James was a massive part. He was a part in the engine of why Manchester United won. He was the speed. He was the nitro. He was the reason that Manchester City was scared at the back. You've got Anthony Martial bullying Fernandinho physically because they're not very good at the back, Man City. But the pace of Dan James against Zinchenko and Otamendi on that side was a fundamental part of why Manchester United was successful. So all four signings, and when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer talks about progress, the four signings that weren't there last season and are here now were a massive part about why we won that game yesterday. So that's number one for me. The second thing was that I loved it when Dan James didn't square it to Bruno Fernandes to score, because I went mad, and a few people on the live comments on the watch along were like, well, you're being too harsh, and then the camera instantly cuts to Ollie, shows his reaction, and he's bloody going mad. So while some people are going, oh, what a great run by Dan James, oh, he's missed it, Ollie's doing what I did, and a lot of people do, why didn't you bloody square it? And Martial the same. But to see that passion from Ollie, we've seen it a bit, we need to see it more. I know Ollie wants to be a nice guy. Be a nice guy off the pitch. Be a nice guy behind the cameras. But in front of the cameras, just give us a bit of passion, because people feed off that. I feed off that, and I really liked that as well. The third thing I want to talk about is the back five. I'm not a fan of it, but you know what? You're not always right. You're not always right. I've never met a person who's always right, and I'm definitely not always right. I don't like the back five. I still don't like the back five. But for that game yesterday, there was no other way to play. We aren't ready to go toe-to-toe with Manchester City. I think 4-2-3-1 could have worked, but 5-3-2 worked, and you can't knock that. He set up in a certain way. Dan James was fundamental to it. He went for Matic over McTominay, and Matic was superb as well. McTominay was great when he came on. Agallo was great when he came on. This team understands its role. This team is working together. Whether this team's good enough to go together under this manager, we will see. But yesterday, it was perfect. Absolutely perfect. The fourth thing I want to say in relation to the formation, and it's not even me here, and you could bring it in as a negative, but it's a positive. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, talking after the game, said, look, the performance was brilliant, but was it the ideal performance? No. I would like to have had the ball more. We want to play a little bit more expansive football ourselves, but we are on the right track, and these players are working how I want them to do it. And it's about building on that momentum, and he mentioned Leicester as well. But I think with Solskjaer, I picked up after the game something quite encouraging, that I think he knows that the way we played was the way to get the result, but we're not where we need to be as a football club. Like, you can't play that every game of the season and be in the top. You've got to find a way to play. If you look at any team that's won the Premier League over the last few years, they've got a way of playing, and they play it 95% of the time because they're confident in it. Conte under Chelsea, Klopp this year, Pep, even Ranieri at Leicester. Teams do play a certain way, and United this season, it's been a bit of it's been a bit all over the place in relation to formations. And look, we will get there hopefully. We need to get there because we will have mixed results if we don't get there. And I think Ollie has taken that on board as well, and I was encouraged by that. I think one of the big things that impressed me, Ollie, yesterday was that it wasn't this big high five, yeah, look at us, we're going places. This was a result we needed today. We're going places in the future, but let's not go over the top about this performance. This was a performance to get 3 points that we needed to get. We're going different direction. We want to do different things. The next thing I want to say is we echo Chelsea so much. Last week we moaned that, Chelsea dropped points with a draw at Bournemouth, and what do? We blow it again for the 8th time. This week I want to say Chelsea set the gauntlet. They beat Everton 4-0. They levelled up on goal difference, and they went 6 points ahead before we played. We've got one of our hardest games of the season. Our big rival for 4th has just knocked 4 in and gone 6 points ahead of us. What do? We go and win. So when we quite rightly say we've missed so many opportunities to go past Chelsea, when yesterday they set that challenge, a very hard challenge, we go and do it as well, and I like that. So yeah, every right to moan that we blew it last week against Everton, but every right to celebrate today that Chelsea pulled a massive result out of the bag, and then so did we. And we've got better goal difference than them still because we scored 2. So that was a real positive to show that there is a bit of a spine in this club, and that's another thing as well. We speak about weak mentality, we speak about lack of spine. I've definitely spoke about it on Match Reactions. I've seen plenty of you saying it, and it's right. Anything we've said in the past, whether it's constructive or negative, however you want to call it, it was right. We've lost bad games this season. We've put in weak performances. We've seen heads drop this season. The whole point of falling is to climb back up. And United at the moment, I am seeing a spine. I am seeing a stronger mentality. And that is progress. There's a lot more to be done, but that is a positive. And I've always said this, no matter how close Solskjaer's been to the sack, and no matter how close he'll be to the sack in the summer, because we don't know, I've never said this, the dressing room has not been lost. There's been mumblings, but it's never been lost to the extent that it was under Van Gaal and Mourinho. And Ollie, to his credit, has kept that on board, so that's good. Another thing I liked was no Lingard, no Pereira, no fuss. That team news came out. I was talking about the team on the watch-along. We were talking about the subs, and it took a few minutes for somebody to say, no Lingard, no Pereira. Now, that shows that was the right decision because us as fans didn't really react to it. These are 2 underperforming players who are not in a matchday squad, and we don't even think about it. And then when someone reminds us, we go, you know what? Fair play, Ollie. He's had Lingard on the bench. He's had Pereira on the bench all season. Biggest game of the season, nowhere. Right decision, right reasons. Move on. Let's not make a drama out of it. Let's not pick on those players. They know why they're not in there. Football reasons. Let them deal with it. Let's move on. Well done, Solskjaer. Really liked that as well. I think also in relation to the game himself, I predicted we were going to play a 5-3-2 when Williams didn't start against Derby. We played the 5-3-2. Pep could have predicted we were playing a 5-3-2. Pep saw the 5-3-2 and he saw Dan James. We knew before the game what our plan was. Soak up like a sponge, squeeze it in their face with pace on the break. Pep knew what we were going to do, and Ollie basically enticed him, flirted with him and said, attack me and see if you can beat me, because on the break I'm going to exploit you. He basically said to Pep Guardiola, are you going to arrogantly do what you've done in the past and attack me and leave yourself open at the back with that back 4 and count on the fact that you can break me down? Or are you going to sit back and play out a dull draw? Because I'll take it. And actually, Pep did what Ollie did. He held the bait and Pep went for it. And that we all saw it. I have got to applaud every single United fan. Really, over 90% of you, we were talking about it before the game. Massive amount of you were saying United will win. I said it in my preview. United will win 2-1. I felt that United were vulnerable, and I think we all knew that. I felt that City were vulnerable. We all knew that City were vulnerable, and they were. That back foot, when you look at it, and I said it before the game as well, and many of you did as well, this was about coaching. And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer won the coaching battle, because when you look at the teams On paper, I think United's team, on paper, is better than City's team. You look at that back four, Zinchenko, Otamendi, Fernandinho, Cancelo. That's not a great back four. That's vulnerable. Rodri, Gundogan, Foden, that's all right, it's okay, but it's not Silva, De Bruyne and Fernandinho, is it? I think Man City's back four and midfield was vulnerable. But they're a great coached side. Ollie took the vulnerability. He said, come on then, open up and let's see if you did. And on chances created, we deserved to win that game, maybe even 3-0. So again, Ollie, he played with fire and he didn't get his fingers burnt. He went, this is how I'm going to play. I am going to hit you on the break with pace and I am going to soak it up. And what are you going to do about it? And Pep could have come and gone, you know what? I don't want to get beat. I'm going to keep it deep and tight and let's just play out a dull draw. But Pep, for his credit, some would say, attacked us and went straight into the into the trap that Ollie set him. Also, I just want to say that Bruno Fernandes gets a shout out again. I think that everything he does makes us better. And look, Manchester United should have signed him in the summer. They definitely should. But one of the big things that really stands out to me is that before we signed Bruno Fernandes, we were averaging 1.4 points per game. That's 14 points every 10 Premier League games. We're now averaging over 2. So every 10 games, we were taking 14 points before Bruno. Every 10 games, we're now taking 20. That's 6 points for every 10 games. And when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer talks about Leicester, that encourages me. Leicester are in our range. They are in our range. And Leicester do not have an easy April. Look at what Manchester United have got ahead of them. We have got the games that have caused us problems. We've got the Bournemouths. We've got the Villas. We've got the Crystal Palaces. We have got the opportunity over April and May to grab not just fourth, but maybe even third. And that is what United have got to try and do. And with the likes of Pogba coming back and, as I said, the brilliance of people off the bench. You know, Matt has been doing okay. McTominay was a bench player. Igalo was a bench player. And Eric Bailly was a bench player. And every one of those came on and made a difference. So it's looking good for United at the moment. And also, the injury thing seems to be becoming less of a problem. We had a scare with Martial. We had a scare with Maguire, Wan-Bissaka and Dan James. And they've all turned up and played. Everton last week and today. Very, very important for Manchester United. Very, very important. So, look. When things are positive, this is what we want at the club. What we can do from here, we've got to beat Spurs next week. Europa League takes care of itself. And then when Spurs are out the way and Sheffield United are out the way, which we aren't playing, we're playing Norwich that weekend, it's there. Like Chelsea have got harder games than us. It's there for Manchester United. Consistency is key. But I think with Bruno Fernandes, we found that key. Thanks everyone for watching. Smash a like on the video. Positivity. And big week for Manchester United as ever. I'll speak to you live at 8 o'clock tonight. Have a good start to your week.